A very good morning to each and every one of you who've taken time on your Friday morning to join us in our first session of the entire 9 series this weekend. Family unity is really the theme. And today's topic, we start off with nurturing the critical 0 to 7 years, and we talk about why it matters the most. So I want to introduce you to very familiar faces for me. So we start off with Patricia, Zoey, the founder of the Early Brain Academy, where to me, she is my brain expert, okay? So viewers, feel free to type in your questions throughout, okay? And then we move on to the very lovely and experienced Jessica C., who is my health expert. So she's the founder of Health Coach International and Academy. Yeah, so all your health questions, she is amazing. And then we also have my social emotional learning expert, together with a lot of things, mother of 6, a blogger, my very beautiful Michelle Choy, who is also the founder of The Little Executive, where she will be talking about executive function, or how we... Myself, you would know I'm the founder of Mom Space. Thank you for taking time to be with us. And with that, I want to start this panel session, yeah? So, why we say 0 to 7 years are the most critical is because our brain is a filter, from our conscious to our unconscious. But in the first 7 years is where the filter is literally not there. And that's why whatever our children experience, positive, negative words, actions, it leaves an imprint in their unconscious mind. And that blueprint is what they will live life through. So like what Aristotle said, give me a boy until he's 7 and I will show you the man. Literally, it's the training in the first 7 years that decides almost the destiny, the future, their learned skills, their self-esteem, a lot more. Okay, so so parents, tune in. So so to start, right? Let's talk about why 0 to 7 years are so critical. Patricia, you specialize on 0 to 3 years old. Can you share us what is one thing that's most critical that most parents miss out on?
Well, I always share that this is one top secret that I'm only going to share with very privileged parents here and parents whom I encounter as well. Actually, the brain is most plastic and the most sensitive in the 0 to 3 years old. That's why I choose to be in this space, because that is the first 3 formative years. We may think that a child doesn't talk back, doesn't seem like even a newborn, right, may not see colors, but you know what? A newborn can hear you, right? A newborn can feel you. So actually 0 to 3 is the most exciting years, and that is the period when the synapses, the connectivity of the brain is the most sensitive. And that is what is most, that many parents didn't know, because we always think it's 0 to 6 years old. Of course, 4 to 6 years old is also critical, but if we miss out on 0 to 3, then 4 to 6 will be very difficult. and that's why many parents are struggling with today, but we don't want to be reactive to it. So we want to learn 0 to 3, which I look forward to share more today. Just remember that all babies, you and I, all of us here are born with 100 billion, over 100 billion brain neurons, brain cells that are waiting to connect. And all we have to do is to provide that fun, that play, the opportunity, the environment to connect this little brain, which I call the early brain, 0 to 3 years old. And that's because the visual, the auditory pathways are the most sensitive, which then leads me to talk later about the exponential windows of opportunity, and probably some activity, some fun we can have with our child. Today we're going to talk about fun, right? All about fun, and that's the way to connect a child's brain. Not school, not school. You'll hear more about it later.
Absolutely. Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Julia.
Because you're talking about 1 billion connections.
Yes.
And I think you pointed out something that's so critical. It's precisely because in the 0 to 3 years, there is little output. There is a lot of input.
That's right.
I do the same thing over and over. It doesn't seem to be making a difference. So then a lot of parents tend to stop whatever good they are doing. Or we tend to forget that it's so critical because we are looking for the response that may not yet be shown.
That's right. But I will tell you, that's response. You see, when you do, a baby will He's responding to you, actually.
True. And,
Yes.
and so with that, I want to move on to Jessica
Yes.
because she talks about a billion in the brain.
Yes.
Come on, our gut.
She's very excited. I can see she's so excited. She's ready to take over.
You need to feed those neurons and those brain cells, and,
That's
and
right.
nutrition plays such a key role. And I
Absolutely.
always tell parents, look, the best time to start is when they are young because habits are formed
That's
young.
right.
And these habits will take them through their lives.
That's right.
We always think, let's say I'm in my 50s or 40s and I get cancer or diabetes or whatever. Oh, is it because of what I ate, yesterday or 1 month ago or 3 years ago? No. Parents, it starts right from when they are young. It really builds up and habits are developed young. And that is the perfect time to inculcate good, healthy habits in them.
Yes.
And it starts from the parents, by the way.
So can I ask you, because you being the health expert, you specialize a lot on gut health.
Yes.
And you talk about the, don't know how many billion,
Bacteria, trillion of cells.
100 billion
Trillion of
cells. Trillion of cells in the
trillion
body.
of cells, right?
Yes,
And can you share more on why it's so important to begin to give our children healthy food, wholesome food, so that we condition their bodies' response even?
Yes. So, we actually have 75 or so, nobody can really count, trillion cells in our body, okay? But do you realize, this is a powerful fact which I told, long ago and she has not forgotten it, is that, for every body cell that we have, actually there is 1.3 perhaps bacteria. So if you think your body belongs to you, bad news is actually it's just a condominium for all the bacteria. So we actually have more bacteria than body cells. And you won't believe it, but it's our bacteria which is determining, for example, things we want to eat. Like if your kids from 0 to 3 and beyond do not like vegetables, then I can just simply tell you it's because they have more bad bacteria than good bacteria. And then later, maybe we'll discuss more about what you can do about that.
And that's so true, right? Because my husband has the craving for bread and sugary things. And while he looks so happy eating, it brings me no pleasure. I don't even crave it. But that's only because I intentionally change my eating habits. And I think my bacteria, hopefully more positive one, it's sort of like sending signals to me to tell me what to feed them with. So I think it's critical.
That's right.
And you're so right. My son is a super picky eater. My 5th child, right? So with the 6th child, we did everything right. And you know what? Her favorite foods in the morning, she'll wake up, I want tomatoes. Dessert.
Right.
She looks for fruit and she looks for vegetables. That's her dessert.
Yes.
So, and that craving is coming from the bacteria. So it just tells, because good bacteria likes fruits and vegetables.
And it's so much easier then, right? We don't have to eat your veg, eat your veg.
Yes.
So moving on to Michelle. Okay, I want to talk about attachment parenting and specifically focus on social economic development or the learning of the child. So there's this thing where the baby cries. The older generation will pick the baby up immediately, and then the younger generation there'll be a clash. No, cannot spoil the baby. You keep picking the baby up. The baby will always demand, and once you put the baby down, the baby cries. So what's your take on that? Where is that balance?
Yes, that's a really good question. And I think a lot of parents are doing it wrong. The key thing to note is attachment parent is super important because with good, solid attachment parenting, the baby grows up to become a very secure child and it becomes a secure adult. On the other hand, if the parent does not tend to the needs of the baby in the first year, we will then have a very insecure baby, right? Who then grows up into an insecure child.
That's right.
However, it's not as simple as that, okay? Because babies have different needs. Is the baby crying for the need of comfort? If it's for comfort, yes, you go there and carry. But parents have no clue how to read the signs of the baby's cry.
That's right.
So then the only thing they do is they just always go and, like grandparents maybe, they go and carry the child, but that's not what the child is looking for. Or parents then start to be desperate and then just breastfeed the child, okay? But you think about it, the babies have different needs. It it could be the baby is hungry. So you need to fit the right, you give the right thing to the baby. If the baby is hungry, then yes, it should be fed. But if the baby is crying for something else, crying to sleep, you shouldn't be giving the breast to
that's right.
feed. Or if the child, actually, there's also a need for stimulation. If the baby is always looking at the same mobile, you know, it's very funny, which I tell parents straight out, you buy this mobile, okay, it goes around. When was the last time you changed the toys on the mobile? They looked
It's
at
so
me,
boring,
I've never
right?
changed it. I'm like, imagine I give you the same scenery
right.
for 3 months or
Yes.
6 months, right?
That's
We should
right.
change it every 3 or 4 days. And it doesn't have to be expensive. Go and hang a ribbon, go and hang some thread, you know, anything different. So the child might be actually crying because they are bored,
That's
right?
right.
So we need attachment parenting just means building this connection to be attuned to what your
Certainly.
baby needs. You need to give the right thing. Imagine you're hungry and I ask you to sleep, right? It does not make sense.
Exactly.
Now, the key thing is when a baby is crying on the bed, how you spoil the child. There's something that you really need to know about, okay? So a proper sleep cycle is 90 minutes. It's about 1.5 hours, okay, for anybody, for a baby or a person, right? So we go through many sleep cycles. Now, for example, the baby's having a nap and she's sleeping for 1.5 hours. What happens is in the middle of that sleep cycle, around the 45 minute mark, the baby will stir because that's the middle of the sleep cycle. Now, babies stir in very different ways. Some babies stir quite mildly and gently. Then you notice, hey, sleep again. Very good. Okay, it's normal and that's excellent. But some baby at that 45 minute mark, they stir very noisily. They might cry or they might kind of like scream, okay, or some fuss in a very, you know, with funny sounds, and you get disturbed and you're thinking, oh no, what's happening? That is the problem when the caregiver goes in to pick the child up. That is when we need to leave the baby to learn to self-soothe, to cross that 45 minute mark
Otherwise,
and have a proper
otherwise they don't.
That's right.
90
The
minute
whole
sleep
cycle.
Yeah, that's when you shouldn't go in to pick it up. So reading a baby is really not easy. I learned it after 6 kids and now I'm a master at it. That's why little Kate, right, my 6th child, has grown up so well because we've learned all these, you know, little tricks. But in the beginning, I did the same mistake as everybody else. When the baby cried, what do we do? Do we pick it out? It doesn't work. Then my husband would be like, cannot be you and your mom keep carrying the baby the whole time, right? That does not work. So yeah, you need to be, the key thing is you need to understand your baby.
Wonderful. I love what you share. So there's not just a one solution for everything, but to even recognize. So there's this language on the baby cries, you know, I actually listen.
that's right.
The O sound is more about being hungry and the different sounds. And I love what you share about the self-soothing because that would serve the baby much later. And that's why many children who are not well adjusted are afraid of the dark. They wake up and then they cry because they were never given that space for them to acclimatize to, okay, it's on me, everything is safe. And then they find the inner security within themselves.
Yes.
So thank you so much,
So
Michelle.
don't do things like abandoning your child and let them cry.
Certainly not.
That is not right.
That heightens the fear and the
And
anxiety.
you have a very insecure baby and it becomes an insecure child.
Wonderful, wonderful. So now let's move on to structures that we can do to serve our children, okay? Let's start with 0 to 3 years old. What is one exercise that you would encourage parents to do with their children to begin to open up or to connect, you know, the synapses?
Certainly. But just to supplement what I shared earlier and also just to connect the because I just can't wait to say this, you know, about what Michelle just shared about sleeping and carrying babies. And it is about parents understanding the needs of the child, isn't it? The very early brain, the child can't talk. So parents are guessing, making a lot of guesses. And that's why it's so important for parents to understand what Junior is talking about, the structure of the early brain, how understanding how the brain, you know, needs this rest and how at which point it wakes up and how parents can manage that. And in fact, the need of the child comes from this, plus to have a child sleep well, then the activities come in. And one of the very critical, simple activity that parents from newborn can do. Okay, I'll give you 2 activities because it's a wide range, 0 to 3 years old, right? So when a baby is not able to walk yet, then if you want your baby to sleep well, just connecting to sleep, and much more, better appetite and feeling more secure, actually, is to put baby on the floor, right? On a nice gym mat that is smooth. and then let baby wriggle, and let them move. Tummy time alone is not enough. In our academy, parents hear me say, tummy time is not enough. Make them mobile. Give them mobility, and babies will be happier when they can move around and explore themselves as well. And a baby at 4 months old can already move and explore. That's amazing about our baby's capability. They are born with a capability, but what we adults do is, well,
Take away.
that's for the newborn.
Would I be right to say, even if the baby fusses, like, they're not comfortable, leave them be?
Yeah, well, there's a method where we don't just leave them and they feel that we forget about them. Parents get on the floor, lie next to them, let them hear our voice nearby, and put our hands on their skin to skin is important for a baby to want security, and that's how you make up. Parents, I do mentor many parents in that space, and parents say, oh, baby doesn't like being on the tummy, they like to be carried. Of course, right? What's more comfortable here, near mommy's body or on the floor? But if we find the right way to cope with it, actually our babies have so much fun being on the floor, and I can show you videos where parents are so happily seeing their babies move and interacting with the children on the floor. So that's one thing parents can do. But if you have a baby who is already walking, running, very critical is go play tiger. I call this tiger game. It's a very simple game on your fours, and ask your child, you be the tiger, okay, come and catch mommy. So all of us have a good family workout. But you see this workout, tiger, just all fours on the floor, just like you're mopping the floor, right, on your knees. And baby goes on this cross pattern playing tiger. This simple activity is so critical for the growth of the midbrain. And the midbrain function is actually for processing of visual auditory information. That's important, right? For children to later on learn, have good learning capabilities, and seeing and hearing and able to process that well is what comes from this simple activity. And this activity also grows with our respiratory system. You see, simply at home, you really don't have to go anywhere, especially during this time. Many parents say, Patricia, what can we do? We can't go out, we need mask up. See, there's so much at home. So take this, play with your child, and in fact, I would say many occupational therapists, for older children, they play this game too. And so I hope you will go back and start working.
And I think that's critical, because studies have shown that, those babies that suddenly from not crawling to standing and walking, while some parents celebrate that, wow, my baby can walk, stand up and walk, and miss that critical developmental stage of crawling. Later on in life, the connection is not as balanced, right?
Certainly. That's why I take much delight to actually share this information with parents in my public sessions, and really just to educate parents about the early brain. The better you understand what Junior just described, there's a lot of science behind it, and these are facts. And so crawling on the floor grows the cerebellum for later balance, later body posture, visual development as well. And then the simple activity on the knees. If your child is 2 years old, 3 years old, even past that creeping on the floor stage, play tiger. Get tunnels at home. Make your home a fun place for your child to grow up in. And that should be the secure environment too, for your child to be himself, just having fun with mommy and daddy. Right,
Wonderful.
so I have a lot more, but I know there's so much more for our panelists to share, and I just want to conserve some for later.
Wonderful. And Jessica, so now we shift the focus to food, right? In the first 5 years, how do we begin to build positive habits for our children, especially if the parent doesn't like to eat veg?
So absolutely, I think I like the word fun. So that's where we're going to start. But also the other thing which is very, very important is structure. Provide the right structure in place. Because we always say, okay, look, behaviors determine results, right? That means, for example, you eat well, you will be healthy. So behavior determines results. But do you know that structure determines behavior? Think of any structure. Like this nice cafe here, how it's structured, where the door is, will determine where we are going to walk, how we're going to go, where the ladies' room is will determine where we're going to go. So structure determines behavior. Now, you can change behavior to get the results you want, but sometimes that is short term. Just like, for example, you're telling your kids, eat vegetables, eat vegetables. Short term, you force them, maybe they may comply,
Yeah.
okay, but it's not long term, right? So the long term thing to do really is to change the structure, because remember what I said, structure determines behavior. And when you change the structure, you will get the long term results that you need. So how do we change the structure? Well, it depends really on the whole setting. It's not just one thing, forcing them to eat vegetables. It's the whole thing. And of course, the best place to start is the supermarket. Okay. You know, where you're going to get your food. Yeah. So, I always tell parents, of course, maybe not 0 to 3, but, slightly older, like 5, 6, get them involved,
Yes,
So we
yes,
always,
yes.
when we bring them to the supermarket, we can tell the child, say, hey, look, today we're going to pick a vegetable that we have never tried before, never eaten before. And, you can pick any of the vegetables you like. You see that looks cute or whatever, we will buy it, and together let's search for recipe, how to prepare it, and so on. Make it fun, and also even in the kitchen, because you all know that when we were young, I don't know whether I'm 60, by the way, so I'm the oldest here. So and I'm proud to say it. So we used to play masak. I don't know about you guys, but we used to play masak.
We play paper doll. Yes.
So masak, we like, masak means cook, so we like that, pretend, so why not make it real in that sense? So in the kitchen, of course, not asking them to cut, it may be dangerous, but even things like peeling certain things, or even talking over the recipes and experiencing it, make it fun, so they want to try new things, because the key is a sense of adventure, a sense of fun. That is what creates the structure.
Yes.
So, and if they don't like, let's say, for example, the vegetable which they picked, it didn't taste good, it's okay. Okay, don't ever tell them, okay, look, you pick it, you better finish it, don't waste. No, then next time they're never going to want to try. So, make it okay to not like something, to make mistakes, and okay, that's fine, you don't like it, next time we won't take, because why? The options are limitless. That we must understand. Just because they don't like broccoli doesn't mean they won't like all other vegetables.
I so love what you're sharing, because I think often the mistake that many parents make is we do the grocery ourselves, and then we tell the kids, okay, any sweets and all you pick up, right? And then there seems to be almost an invisible divide between my food preparation, where I cook what I want and what I think is healthy for the kids, compared to what you just said, integrating, involving them, getting them to have that ownership, so that they actually enjoy the food preparation. And when you talk about environment, right, like structure, one thought I have is, even our pantry, right? Don't buy the snacks, don't buy the Coke, because when we choose not to buy those, they can search all they want, and they can't find it. And who is the one who actually sets?
It's the parents' fault. If you tell me, oh, my kids love, okay, I won't mention names, but fast food or whatever, whose fault it is? Is your fault. The money comes from you.
But if I may add,
0 to
the
7
first
years
12
old.
months is critical to set that habit.
Correct,
one of the habits that I do
Absolutely.
share with parents, because once a child starts solid, right, that's where they start to choose the food.
correct.
So it starts from that point, actually.
And you are giving in to them.
So
Don't
in
blame the kid,
one of the things I teach parents is you puree things, but give them pureed vegetables in the first 3 mouthfuls. The first 3
get the
mouthfuls,
gut
they
bacteria.
start with the vegetables.
First 3 mouthfuls.
Because you see, what parents do, a lot of time we mix, right? Amma always mix, not Amma lah, Mommy also. Don't say Amma listening in, sorry. It's just porridge, fish, vegetables. It becomes all sweet in there. The taste of vegetable is being masked in there. I did a lot of studies on this.
Yes.
So that's part of my teaching to parents too.
Correct.
The moment you start solid, yes, you can have a bowl of mixed up, but first 3 mouthfuls. Vegetables.
Because you feed the gut
in the
bacteria.
raw, and in the raw
In
taste
the
of
rawest
vegetable,
taste,
right?
and they get used to that.
Yes.
And best is not to mix it if you can.
Yes.
And that's how my son, boy.
And going back to the
eating-
good bacteria likes
Yes.
vegetables, so you are building up the population of good
So
bacteria.
he's eating the yellow capsicum, right? Raw,
Yes.
like fries.
Yeah,
Yes.
My girl,
You
my
see?
girl does it
So
healthy.
that is what it is.
Yes.
Have fun, right?
Correct.
So start not waiting till
Yeah.
the child,
Yeah.
even
Yeah.
the child
Yeah.
making the
Purely,
choice
yeah.
themselves, but
Yeah.
we condition.
And something I've also realized that, for example, even broccoli, right?
Yes.
If you steam it, if some kids don't like it, try to stir fry it.
Exactly.
Yeah, try a
there-
different
there are
way.
limitless of
I've got a grilled recipe. You sure like it. Even a child
Okay,
doesn't
just
like.
one more thing. One more thing in terms of structure is never ever use food to reward your kids. You know, you are creating
Absolutely,
mixed signals. You know,
yes.
it's like you tell your kid, okay, look, you know, if you are good, you can have ice cream. If
after
you are
dinner.
good, you know, I give you chocolate.
No,
If you are
not
good,
just food,
you know,
any kind of
so don't
reward.
use-
It should come from them to
Oh,
want to do it,
But
right?
if you know, give rewards like, you know,
Yes,
a hug
I know,
from
right?
mommy
Yes, that's
and things
the
like that.
best,
But
right? Yes.
anyway, food absolutely out. Whether good food or bad food, don't use food as a reward.
Absolutely.
It gives wrong signals.
Yeah.
So we do have a question from our guest, right? And she's just asking, what if my child is 9 years old? So I know we said this is 0 to 6 years old, but what if, let's say we are talking about an older child who already has not so positive habits? What can we do to intervene, to course correct?
Absolutely. I mean, of course, first of all, we were saying, you know, it starts with the parents lah. You know, if the husband don't like, okay, send him to me. You know, it really starts from there. But like
Really,
I said,
you are able to work magic with our spouses.
we can
will
work
just-
magic. We can work magic because of the bacteria. I mean, I keep going back to that. You know, it's not magic in the like psycho them to want to eat vegetables, but the brain. I mean, the
second brain. They say the gut,
bacteria.
yeah, it's the
you know.
second brain,
So when
yes.
you do that, the second
Yes.
brain, yeah. So you know, so for 9-year-old, same thing. Now, whether it's 90 or 9-year-old, there are ways to do it. Yeah. So really, bottom line is repopulate with good bacteria. Then naturally they will want to go for the fruits and vegetables.
And I think we do have some solutions as discussed. Number one, remove the snacks from home first, so there's lesser accessibility to it. And then begin to just introduce the dishes at home, right? Whether they eat or not is really up to them. Because I think I was very encouraged when Patricia, you were sharing, just 3 spoonful. Because very often the mentality is,
Too much.
I prepare one whole big bowl, you don't finish, and then we literally end up force feeding. Because we, with a good intention, of course, we want to ensure they have enough. But I think just being very realistic about just 3 spoons is enough. So then I think it sets our expectations and them, you know, up for success.
I must add, after the 3 spoonful, then he gets the rest in the whole meal. That's just to sensitize the palate to receive vegetables.
And to
And not
appreciate
to
and enjoy
reject it later.
Wonderful.
Yeah, and just not to mask the vegetable, because we always perceive vegetables not tasty. So adults tend
We
to
are
mask
the
that
ones,
taste. So don't mask it.
It's just making little changes lah. Like for
Yes.
example, you know, white rice is
Right.
out, you know, and the whole family must subscribe to it, you know.
Yes,
So,
yes.
you know, don't tell me that, oh, look, you know, oh, my husband doesn't like, let's say brown rice or red rice or whatever. Oh, my children don't like. Why don't they like? Because you didn't try. I mean, there are plenty of recipes. I mean, I totally recommend black rice. If you haven't tried it, go to the supermarket and look for black rice today.
It's
so yummy and it's soft, you know, unlike black rice. And it's healthy.
red rice.
So little changes. The rice, the oil. These are 2 basic things.
So no processed oil, just use pure virgin oil, olive oil. I mean.
I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say that. I
Well,
think
that's a
good
big topic.
oil- that's a big topic.
Okay.
Cooking oil, what I recommend, palm oil and rice bran oil. Nothing else. Nothing else.
I did it.
Shortcut answer.
Wonderful. And I think something that I want to say is, even if we were to introduce it in small amounts. So I remember many years ago, what I did is we cook our normal white rice, but I wanted the children to try brown rice, right?
You mix it in.
Yeah, no, I didn't mix the whole pot because I know that they might begin to pick up the grain. So one corner, you know, the rice cooker, right? Wash all the white rice, and then at the one small portion, I put the brown rice there. I was ready to eat the entire part, but some of it floated over, you know. So basically, it's 95% look like white, but very, very little brown. And slowly, that was how they got used to it, because I think sometimes when it's cold turkey, it becomes very harsh. But when it's gradual,
Yes, they don't
some
notice.
colors, they are like, okay lah, mommy didn't do it intentionally. It's for her. She wanted to cook her brown rice and some floated. And then slowly they are a lot more accommodating.
That's why 0 to 7 years is the best time. Start them
I
right.
was about to say, I'm so happy I'm
Start
doing
them
0 to
right.
3 years old. I don't need to change, we just set it up right.
Okay, and we do have some viewers who are
Yes.
also of the older age.
For the older age, I want to say, I would just want to encourage the older viewers too. I do know of parents who have older children in their teens. In the early years, they don't take vegetables. But you're right, when they get interest in culinaries, they try to cook themselves, they have to include vegetables in their cooking. Let them try some cooking.
Yeah.
And they will eat their own food that they cook, you know. That's how they start to enjoy vegetables.
It's
and I know of a few teens and their boys, we don't want to generalize the preferences, but they end up eating vegetables when they are in their teenagers, but earlier on they
It's
rejected
about creativity
too. It's
too,
getting them involved.
I love that. So parents, whatever age your children are, whether 9 years old, whether 18 years old, whether 38 years old, it doesn't matter. I think we can start wherever we are to begin to populate, to feed our good bacteria with the food that serves
But
them.
do not force. Just
and
don't
then
use the
slowly.
force.
Yeah,
Just
let's
don't.
not force, but let's
Just be
slowly.
creative.
Yeah.
Creative.
Let's enjoy the process. That's a
That's
common
right.
theme I keep
Yes.
hearing. And now I want to shift the conversation to emotions. Okay, I think very often what happens, right, for children under 7 years old is a lot of children shout, throw tantrum because they can't control. I mean, they are just expressing. And the truth is, in Asia, we're not comfortable with negative display of emotions. Quiet, people see, so shameful, and it's our own inability to deal with the negative emotions. How can we as parents expand our emotional capacity to deal with not just the positive, but the negative as well?
And I think this is a great question, and Junior pointed it out right. It's actually not the child, it's us,
Again.
It's really the parent,
Yes.
it really is. Emotions are a part of a being, right?
Yes.
It is really us that are embarrassed when your child throws a tantrum. We are actually very afraid when we hear children cry. That's basically it, okay? So I tell parents, the key thing is you need to help to get yourself to a point where you're comfortable. When you're comfortable to hear your child cry, to see your child sad, and you don't feel that you have to rush into fixing. That is what we all do. We all think that our aim is to stop their cries as quickly as we can. That is wrong. That is really, really wrong. What happens? You actually teach your child to bottle it up, and they would either blow up somehow or they keep inside, and it becomes unhealthy methods of coping in the end. Okay, again, the early years are the time. So actually, we always think it's the child, but actually it's us, right?
Yeah.
We need to really equip ourselves to know how to deal with this. So the first thing to understand that emotions are normal. We should expect it. They are little children. They have big emotions. We are the ones who need to teach them. And we need to teach them by co-regulating with them. So when a child is in a tantrum and all, we can't also be the adult who then get agitated and then throw a tantrum, and then we throw an adult tantrum. And now there's two people throwing a tantrum. And we're not helping the child, right? So we really need to equip ourselves, really. This is something that we as parents were not taught when we were young. And we learn from how our own parents, shh, mata coming, that kind of threat.
Or policeman catch you,
Yeah, that's the worst, Then we all end up being scared of policemen.
Yeah, I had a father ever ask me, Patricia, do you teach a child what's anger and sad? Because I teach them how to have self-expression of emotions. And my answer is definitely, because it's part of emotions. So agree with Michelle. Even she said, my baby only what? How come I'm going to teach him what is angry? He doesn't get angry. I said, anger is part of emotion. They must learn. We need to teach them how to cope with it.
Cope.
So how do we cope? Like, what's one technique that we can learn as parents to set that good example?
So the first thing is this, okay? Whatever happens to your child, your little child will have big emotions. The first thing is you need to be prepared, be mentally prepared yourself. It's going to happen. Okay, so the first thing is your own reaction. No need to scream and shout or, overreact. So what you need to do is to give them space. You need to acknowledge, okay? And you teach them the words because they don't have the vocabulary. So that's where you need to teach them the vocabulary. So you really need to give them space and you need to acknowledge their emotions. So you tell them, say, oh, so I can see that you're feeling angry. So then they can recognize, oh, this is the feeling and I'm feeling angry, okay? Because we have children who could be 9 years old or 10 years old and they have no idea. They just keep blowing up. They don't know, are they angry? Are they frustrated? Are they disappointed? Are they sad? You know, what is it, right? So give them emotional language. And so acknowledge it with them. Your aim is not to stop the crying or because you know, we are parents, we might feel bad for them, like, oh yeah, they are so sad, you know, I want to do something to help them to quickly get over this sadness. Your job is not to help them to quickly get over it, okay? In fact, it is very healthy for them to experience the whole emotion, be it sadness, be it anger, be it disappointment. That is healthy, right? So we are there for them. We are, you know, so we have to learn. After so many kids, I've learned to be very zen. You know, in Star Wars, there's this Yoda, you know, the old Yoda. You know, he's so zen. The world can crash around him, but he's so calm.
That's right.
And that is
Do or do not.
there is no try.
No try.
You know, we need to be that pillar of support for our child, right? We need to be there, and then we need to help our kids say, okay, so I can see that you're feeling very angry, right? And that actually helps your child to bring it down. Many times we don't acknowledge what the child is feeling, and the child gets more angry. You know, I give you an example. When Kate falls down, I would let her chill and see, you know, I won't run to her, because sometimes when you run and give them all this attention, the child actually screams for more attention. And I will immediately acknowledge and say, hey, kiddo, you are hurt. Is it painful? You know, how do you feel? And because you acknowledge it, she doesn't need to escalate her cries.
That's right.
But for example, my friend, you know, she to her son, and she's like, okay, stop crying now, stop crying. Never mind, like, you're a boy. It's okay. No, like, doesn't look very bad. Like, why are you crying?
Putting all the concepts, you are a boy.
And then the child feels that he needs to cry louder to show you that, hey, I'm hurt.
I want comfort.
Yes, you didn't acknowledge me. And I go there and give her a big hug. And I don't even need to say anything. And she knows and recovers so fast. Like, she could, like, her knee could be bleeding like at 2 years old, right? But because we acknowledge it, we give her the comfort, she's okay and she can move on.
There's so much in what you said, right, that I want to unpack it, right? Number one, you've got to name it to tame it. Very often, like what you said, you know, in the entire iceberg of emotions, it's easier to just identify anger. But
so
under
much
could be more vulnerable emotions that we've been taught not to show, like fear, pain, vulnerability. So, and then it just comes out as anger. So to help our children identify the nuances of the entire, of the entire range of the negative emotions, helps them, okay, so this is jealousy. Yes, I'm jealous and it's okay to be jealous. Then what do I choose to do after experiencing this emotion? And I love the other thing you said, you know, when children fall, right? Remember in the first 7 years, it's unconscious, it's a clean slate. I remember I tried this experiment, the child fall, right? And then I look at my child, then the child look at me, and then I laugh. Even though the heart a bit big, I like, so funny the way you felt. The child started giggling because the child is looking at our faces for social cues as to how should I respond. So you say, yay, you fell, come, it's time for you to get up. I mean, given that it's not a painful one, you know, when they're just learning to toddle, they actually learn that, and they no longer recluse into, oh, I need someone to help me, or I need, you know. So I think it's critical for us to remember our projections. What are we as parents projecting unconsciously onto the child as we rescue them, as we begin to, one emotion that my husband used to have, when the child fall down, why you fall down? You know, out of love. No, it came out of love, but because that was the way he was parented, right? So after that, we spoke, right? I'm like, why you scold the child? He's like, because I didn't want the child to fall. Then I say, yeah, I know you're trying to protect, so it comes from a good space. But sometimes the way adults are untrained, what comes out is instead of love, the child experiences our anger when actually it was not intended.
But I think it is also modeling. I always, share with parents in my community that we need to model it. I mean, before even teaching a child to express themselves, is how when we fall, or sometimes we get pain, we'll tell the child, hey, see mommy, pain. You know, then we are demonstrating that kind of behavior, right? But and also to talk to our child about how we feel that day. And this is part of my fun activity that I teach parents to do, you know, at the dining table, rather than giving them the screen. I mean, you know, my hot topic is the screen, but Then to talk about my day, then the dining table in a place where we socialize and we care and we talk about our emotions. And I want to encourage parents to even share their own emotions with their child. Talk about our own emotions.
And no mobile phone, right?
And I
No
love what you're
smartphone
sharing about
at the dining table.
So let's talk about screen. I know that, because I think for a lot of younger children, that becomes the nanny during meal times because it's easier, it's fast free, and we do live in very busy worlds. So, Patricia, if you can just share a little about why watching any flashing screens before 2 years old is not recommended.
Actually, below 3 now, the research is done is just a quick link to what I was sharing earlier about the very sensitive synapses visually, auditorily. So same thing, it's a double-edged sword actually, because if we capture that moment well, doing something, exciting like what I just described. In fact, I just quickly share, I designed the PIES, the PI systems, right? Which is to include physical in our child's environment. Yes, intellectual stimulation, but nothing about going to school. Don't use the school method, but more about really visual auditory stimulation, emotional social connection, right? So a very big part of this is the screen actually, see, parents think my child can only learn through watching the screen, right? Want to teach them a nursery rhyme, switch on the screen, next moment they can dance. That's so true that our children actually can connect and learn so fast. But you see, the screen also has that potential, a negative effect, and the research is done on the early brain as well. The double-edged sword is because of the sensitivity of that early brain. And the screen does give that visual auditory input and stimulation that I use a very layman's term, haywires the connectivity of the synapses. How it haywires? Just give you a very simple example. You see, for a child to enjoy a day, they have to go through the day and understand and connect information. But in one scene in 5 minutes, right? I use Mickey Mouse, our era. Mickey Mouse wakes up, right? And Mickey Mouse goes to the garden, sing a song with Minnie, and then Mickey Mouse has his food. Next thing, Mickey Mouse, good night. Just in 5 minutes, morning to night, right? So this is where the child doesn't have connectivity of information. And can you imagine there are multiple snaps of this in the brain information? So to put it simply, the screen actually hurts the early brain, 0 to 3 years old. It has that great impact because of that very sensitive period in that brain connectivity. And it doesn't hurt an older child. Even me watching my TV, because my brain is old brain already, not so sensitive anymore. But that 0 to 3 years old is that sensitive. So it's a double-edged sword. The TV is really like a drugs, and of course it very quickly leads into addiction. That's another my passionate topic that I teach parents to handle that. But the 0 to 3 also can, on the other hand, without the screen, grow very well, grow good attention when parents are able to do activities that connect the synapses in an organized manner, and the child then naturally can process information, understanding, listening well, and it's easier for us to parent them later on.
Wonderful. Yes. I love what you share, because very often science has shown that when we allow the flashing screen to be in front of the eyes, we actually stop imagination of it. We actually stop the imagination of the child, because the child is just a passive screen, just boom, 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 downloading everything. Yes, and then cannot sleep at night, right? So it's not just bad on the eyes, but even as it goes back into the brain.
It hurts the brain, basically. It hurts the brain. Grandma used to say, don't watch TV, you get bad eyes. It's not about the eyes. It's actually hits the occipital lobe, the temporal lobe, the overall development of the brain. Well, my hot topic.
I got it. Okay, so moving on, right, to the next topic. If we were to talk about, so we have a question here from one of the audience who's asking, how do I help my 3-year-old and my 6-year-old to pack their own toys without using reward? Anyone wants to talk about that?
So like Jessica mentioned the word structure. You start with having structure, right? So you put in a routine that when you play your toys, after that I expect you to put it into the box. So the key thing is for kids to take on behaviors.
Yeah.
You need to set up the structure,
Yes.
set up the system, and have a routine. So, right, so again, like Patricia was saying, if you start it very young, it becomes
Yes.
something very normal
Yeah,
to the
that's
child.
right.
It becomes autopilot, okay? But I suppose you're asking
Yeah.
this question because your child's already 3 or 6 and they are not doing that. So for kids who are in that situation, there's 2 things you need to do. First, then you have to get involved with them.
Yes.
Make it fun with them. You know how in
Exactly.
preschool there's
Make it
a
fun.
song,
That's
clean
right.
up,
Yes,
right? So there's
yes.
a prompt, right? That after you're done, there's a prompt, there's a song, and we all clean up together. So if your kids are not packing up, then now you have to step in and make it fun, clean up together, all right? If they are still not doing it, for example, the 6-year-old, because he's been conditioned not to do that
For
until
6
now,
years,
either the helper packs or the mom packs, or he can just play and walk away, right?
Yeah.
Then he needs a consequence.
Yes.
So the consequence always has to be a very natural consequence. Okay, if then you still don't want to pack up, then this toy will be removed. It'll
Yes.
be put in the storeroom.
Yes.
And
Yes.
then you can play with another toy, and you can keep doing that until you realize
No more
he has
toys.
no more toys in a toy room. It's
One
as
of the things I
simple
share
as
with
that.
parents, also that's similar to that, but also to limit the toys. Because you see, our parents overindulge our children with,
Yeah.
you just pull out, boxes and boxes. Sometimes you can have like 10 boxes
Or more.
That's right. Our children are very, very fortunate these days. But if you could start with every three types of toys, because sometimes they cross-play their toys. Like my son plays his wooden block with Lego and his safari animals. He just create a whole safari using different toys, not following the rules. But it's fine. They enjoy creating. But you see, observe and give your child that limited amount to play. Not that we're limiting their imagination, but encourage them to play in that. And if you want new toys, the reward is packing up. You get new toys. So it's actually a very fun thing. And parents, be involved.
Yeah.
As what Michelle just shared.
Yeah.
Our involvement, we don't pack for them. So we must tahan lah.
Yeah.
We have to tahan, Sometimes they don't pack, I also don't pack. I will say, okay, you put one, mommy put one. So it's like this play, and mommy put 2, you put 1, kind of thing. And then it becomes a fun thing to do together. Packing can be fun, basically.
Wonderful. I love what you share about natural consequences, because I think very often parents rush in too early to spoil them or protect them, and it doesn't do them service. Because the greatest thing we could do is to allow the natural consequences to play out so that it happens, instead of I say, then I'm going to keep your toys, but never keep. Right? Or I say, let's say 20 minute screen time. 20 minutes later, I'm still on my own screen, and then 2 hours later, why so long? And then the next day it continues. So in their mind, we actually train them, mommy is going to be on her screen.
It's learned helplessness as well, so we just pack for them, so I don't know how to do, we are teaching them helplessness.
Wonderful. Okay, as I bring this to a close, I just want to ask, what habits, let's talk about habits, because I think we've covered structures, we've covered values. If we talk about habits, what's one habit that you would give, that you would tell parents of kids below 3 years old to start inculcating? Patricia?
Sure. Junior, there's so many habits, unlimited, all that we talk about. But one thing that's very close to my heart that I want to share and parents to take back is the habit of waiting, waiting can be a habit. And socializing, talking to one another can be a habit if we allow that. So one thing I would ask is parents, linking to what I shared earlier, if you could remove the digital devices at the dining table. Remove that's a good start already. Parents, I know something, my child's not going to eat. Well, it is how we create a culture and also the habits that we want to start with. You see, replacing that time of your child, I know when we start, who started the screen for the child at the dining table? Because we wanted them to eat fast. We cannot accept that they eat beyond 20 minutes. But you see, a dining, for us to socialize at the dining table, it takes an hour, sometimes a 1.5. And see, my diet expert, right? We need to chew and eat. So parents, let's not rush our child's meal time. In eating slower is not wrong. I think many parents have, I think today have spoiled that fun and that culture, that early habits that we want to instill. And instead at the dining table, so I'm just sharing this, and to know more, just go find out more about me. I talk a lot about this on social media as well. But replacing the screen with chats. We're talking about mommy feels, make and talk about the food and the plate.
Yes, I was
And
going
in
to say
fact,
that.
I introduce parents.
Yes.
One tip is have a food pyramid, right, as a placemat. And even at the fridge, whatever we eat, we match that, to the food, and we talk about the food we eat and talk about how he wants to eat his next meal. Talk and talk and talk at the dining table. I know our mommy always say, eat your food, don't talk. But we all then later on send us to classes to learn how to socialize at the table. So we do that. That's early habits. Whereas this is a habit as well. Actually, a lot of things that we do and we do it daily, it becomes a habit. So this is one habit is remove the bad, the toxic to the brain, which is the digital devices. And well, I have limited time to talk about how bad it can, it hurts the 0 to 3 years old, but just do it. And then convert that screen time into mommy time, mommy and baby time. And make it fun, and let your child look forward to the next meal with you. And this is very doable. I can share with you that many married parents that I work with, hundreds of them, they have turned around, they come back, and guess what's the good thing that comes out? Baby has better speech, baby is more expressive now, baby can talk more, and they share more about their days. We want that, right? Then start the early habits of enjoying the meal with mommy.
I love what you say, because I think in today's digital world, we sometimes forget to connect. And I think meal times are a wonderful time to just talk about how your day is, your perspective on something, or a learning topic, right?
That's right.
I think that's
There's
wonderful.
nothing wrong with a 45 minutes meal together. Actually, that's too short for a conversation.
In fact, to be very frank, because of this summit of late, right, I have been excusing myself from the dining table because I've work to do, right? And the kids, right, just go on at it for 1 hour, and I'm doing my work, and I can hear laughter, and they're discussing about how their dream is or what they're doing, and that social connection is so integral. Their bond, it's so special that they can just talk freely and
Absolutely.
And okay, so now moving on, Jessica, I want to bring in this because somebody was asking about academics, right? And being in Singapore, very often we push our kids, come, let's go for enrichment classes prior to the 7 years old primary school. So what's your take on that? And what's one habit, given your years of experience, that we can encourage parents to actually, in bringing out the best?
It's really about feeding the cells. It's really about feeding the cells, what the cells need. So, I've worked with many parents, both for special needs, as well as normal, who wants to just, have their kids excel in school. So it's really about supplying the right nutrients, because the brain is actually a very hungry organ. Did you realize that? We have to feed the brain first. So, things like omega-3 and so on, we need to make sure, number one, clear out the inflammation from the brain, which is causing problems, and giving the right nutrients. And I totally agree with what, was said just now about having the meal time. The one habit, if you ask me, would be to teach them to enjoy food.
That's right.
Teach them to enjoy food. I mean, seriously speaking, if you really ask them why they like a certain fast food, it's not about the taste. If you teach them to enjoy food, they would realize that, the fast food, what is the taste? No, So when you are having meal time, the mommy prepares a special thing, and then you teach them to, or rather encourage them to, okay, this tastes nice, or I think this one is a little bit, it's got a savory, so analyze the taste.
That's
and
right.
Also to be adventurous, to be creative. So now, by the way, it's more on the healthy plate, which is even easier than the food pyramid.
Yes.
So I do the healthy plate, and I ask them, okay, can you arrange
the quarter
into
half,
a healthy, quarter half, and let's have a picture, and then who creates the nicest looking healthy plate?
Right.
So make it fun, make it nice, and they are learning a lesson at the same time, not in a boring way.
So it starts early, the healthy plate, because the only babies get it, right? But we can do that. Quarter half, just a quick one. half is vegetables.
Yep,
Doesn't have to be that much, but the visual image
And
of
colourful vegetables.
then the staple and the meat.
Yeah.
So that
and I tell you, they will love vegetables because of the color.
That's
You know,
right.
it's like, ooh, you know.
I so love what you're saying. Number one, eating the colors of the rainbow. That's how I remind myself.
Yeah.
Because even I, for a long time, used to be quite, just go with the white colors, right? And I think the second thing that you wonderfully pointed out is, you know, in France, the way children are brought up at 4, 5 years old, they can actually make souffle, they can actually make cakes because and they do it, you know, the child does it by themselves because the parents train them to enjoy food, appreciate that tea time snack that they are responsible for producing.
Yes.
And I think that's something we can
I
learn
love
from the
the
French
Master
culture.
Chef kids, you know. Oh, it's amazing, these young kids creating all these things. Wow, why don't we train our Singapore kids to do that, you know? Like, wow, cooking all the souffle and all those things.
Yes, and it's actually, it's cultural. As in for them, it's expected. My guests are coming. Can you go and prepare something, you know? So wonderful.
But healthy options.
Yes. Okay, and Michelle, I want to ask you about academics, right? Because in Singapore, a lot of us tend to push our kids. What's your take on how do we find that balance? Do we succumb to the need to always be ahead, right? As a trophy or a rank to show, okay, I'm not left behind. Because I said very often, it comes from a good space. We just want our kids to excel. And yet, how much is too much pressure?
I think the understanding of how to make our kids successful has changed. In the past, in our generation, it was, you know, academic. You study hard, you do well, you get a good job, you get a good life. I think the equation doesn't hold water anymore. The world has changed so much. We are in the 21st century. In fact, that's why I started the Little Executive. How you want to give your child a good foundation is actually not, when they're in a young age, right? It's not pushing them academically. In fact, hot housing them too early, you know, kills them and burns and you know, drains. We want to give them a good foundation in things like their social, emotional, their executive functions, being able to be a good learner, knowing how to learn properly and being self-motivated. And, you know, it has to come from them, having that drive. Now, that kind of foundation will see them far. You know, not just drilling on the academic subjects by itself. That is a very short-term solution.
Certainly.
I so love what you're sharing because the reality is in attachment parenting, it's actually research has shown that EQ matters a lot more than your IQ today.
Holistic approach.
Yes, and the skill sets of the 21st century, collaboration. Do people even like you? Because you may be the smartest guy, but I may not want to work with you because you have no people skills, right?
And you know what's interesting? A study was done in Harvard that executive function skills actually is a greater predictor of success than IQ.
That's right.
Which is shocking.
Which is why I always have this.
absolutely.
You want your child to be smart, you need to give them a heart.
Yes.
You must have a heart.
Things are not what we thought it was.
And I think often, so parents, you know, very often because we were brought up in the IQ era where it's about grades, it's about your score, your results, that we unconsciously train our kids even if the entire landscape has changed. So maybe it's time now to redraw our map.
Rewrite the story.
And hearing it from you, right? That's amazing. I love your humility in just learning. It's really in us just adapting to what do our kids need in time to come. It's really the social emotional confidence. It's how do they view the world as a positive place, or are they always on their guard and competitive in that, right? So thank you so much for sharing. Any last one word you all want to share with our audience today in closing? Patricia?
All right.
One last tip.
Sure. For just to link with what Michelle just said, for the 0 to 3 years old parents, let's not think about school, because we are brought up in the school method. So we do tend to use a lot of the school method, starting with even ABC. That's so school, you know. Do you know that when the child's early brain is well nurtured, it is very true. I have evidence, and our parents who have been through the Early Brain Academy, that, you know, the program that I run and I mentor them as well. It is proven that our children do not need to go to school to learn to read. They enjoy reading naturally because reading actually is a natural brain function. When parents do the right fun and game it just processes that capability. So no school, don't think about school too early, because I interestingly, because my academy is called the Early Brain Academy, and whenever people think of brain, they think IQ only, you know. But the brain actually controls the motor, right? The sensories, that's for intellectual processing, and also emotional and social, which is the frontal cortex function. So overall, parents, we just need to work on these, you know, enriching the brain through food, through activities, through engagement. We will have a very healthy child. And
So thank you.
cognitive comes along with it.
Thank you,
Comes with
Patricia.
it,
Play.
yes.
We get how passionate
Okay,
you are.
okay.
Play.
But play
One word,
meaningfully and
yeah.
correctly, lah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I think what I'm hearing from you is not just allowing the kids their own space to play by themselves, but parents
Nurturing
also.
parents.
Yeah.
Nurturing parents.
Jessica, any one tip?
Well, it's, by the way, not just eating, yeah? Sleeping as well, which we didn't
Yes.
have time to talk
Yes,
about,
yes,
but setting
yes.
the habits right in the area of sleep, eat, exercise. That's why my program is called Sleep, Eat, Exercise, you know.
So sleep, eat, exercise.
Physical, yeah. So, and enjoyment, the key is fun.
Is that why
They
your
are
surname
not
is
going
C
to-
as
yeah,
well? SEE?
So, you know, if they don't enjoy it, it's not going to be a habit. It's just going to be forced. So enjoyment is key. If they are going to have fun, natural, you know, they will naturally gravitate towards that.
Wonderful. Thank you,
Yes.
Jessica. Michelle?
And my word would be connection. A lot of parents actually make the mistake of putting a lot of other things above your relationship with the child. As your kids grow older, past the age of 3, you know, primary school is looming, you get into a tiger mom mode and you feel very, you know, afraid that your child's losing out. Don't forget that, you know, all of that, while you know, naturally will focus on that, don't forget the relationship and the connection with your child. Don't lose that along the way, because that is so important.
Wonderful. I think you've heard each of our 3 lovely panelists, whether it's the brain, whether it's the food, the exercise, the sleep, and the connection critically. Thank you.
Thank you. See you.